We spent hours researching the top 7 traits to help you bring your characters to life. The secret to making boring or flat characters more interesting is by adding distinctive traits, quirks, and flaws. These make your character more interesting and more memorable. However, they must be added correctly and carefully, or else your story's just going to be cheesy.
Unique traits are essential to make characters stand out in the minds of your readers. If all your characters are the same, it'll be a really boring story. So think about the fictional characters that stand out in your mind, and they probably stand out because of their unique quirks, traits, and honestly, the way they navigate their world.
You have a purpose, and your story has a purpose. And we're here to help you write your story and change the world, one life at a time.
In our research, we found 7 unique traits that you can give to your characters to make them unique. And we're going to discuss each one of those and give you examples.
Before you can add these unique things, you need to define your character's core trait. Are they cynical? Are they optimistic? Are they fiercely loyal? Those core traits are going to help them make decisions and move through your story very consistently. And you want that. The added things, those unique traits, are going to help them maybe add a little flavor to how they're navigating those decisions and actions that their core traits lead them to take. So it's like ice cream. Yeah, we all love the ice cream, but some flavors are unique. I like coffee flavor. She doesn't.
Let's explore the category of contradictory traits. These are things that are opposites, and a character can be both kind and ruthless, brave and fearful, and they can be smart and insecure. These are opposite things.
Your characters should be complex, like the people around you. So adding these contradictory traits gives them depth and intrigue.
Here are a couple of examples. Perhaps you have a really tough, no-nonsense detective who secretly loves romantic comedies. Or maybe you have a shy person who is an artist, and when they get on stage, they become just the life of the party.
This is part 2 in a 4-part series about character development. And if you missed part 1, you want to go check that out and watch it so that you can meet Olivia, this feisty character that we created for this series. But Olivia is also going to be in our 4th book in the Electricals saga. So we created this character to put in the book and use as an example. So there's a link down in the show notes to check out part 1 and meet Olivia.
Olivia loves birds, but she is terrified of anything that flies that's really small. Things like butterflies and insects, they freak her out, which is a really contradictory trait because this is a character who's trying to take over for the commander. She's this fierce fighter, and if a bug flies up to her, she doesn't like it. Now, giving your character a contradictory trait is like giving them a head start in a race.
Passions and obsessions are another unique category of traits. Can you tell me, just off the top of your head, your character's deepest passions and obsessions? Well, you should be able to, because these things drive the character like nothing else. They cause them to make poor decisions or to be consumed by their hobbies and maybe neglect the things they're not supposed to neglect. Passions and obsessions are a great place to find inner motivation for your character's actions and reactions. These will make your character more interesting to your reader and maybe a little bit more relatable because maybe they have similar passions.
Here are some examples of this. So a character who is obsessed with collecting vintage toys and knows every single little detail about them. Or maybe a character who is a really big conspiracy theory researcher and he knows, he's got all this information and he really believes he's right on the verge of an epic discovery.
Olivia, our new character, is an avid reader. She reads everything that she can find, which isn't much. In an apocalypse scenario, there just isn't much that she can get her hands on. But she has read the books that she has so much that she's memorized everything about them. So when they're out and about and she sees a bird, she can tell you everything about that bird, the name of it, what its habits are, because one of her books is a comprehensive book about birds. And this explains why she loves birds so much, but she's still deathly afraid of everything that flies.
This next category of traits is well known, but it's underused and undervalued, and that's flaws. Flaws make your characters more relatable and really enhances your character development. Now, perhaps your character has a fear of failure. Maybe they're a people pleaser. Maybe they're just too stubborn for their own good. Now, these imperfections really help drive conflict and enhance your characters.
However, giving your characters more unique flaws can cause the readers to love them and hate them at the same time. Now, rather than just find your typical unusual flaws, maybe you should try adding some that have a little twist to them. Maybe you give this character this flaw of being brutally honest in every situation, and that really creates a lot of conflict with the people around them because they just are tactless.
Here are a few examples. A character who is brutally honest and causes social awkward situations, but helps other people grow, or a character who is a perfectionist, who is constantly starting new projects and not finishing because they can't achieve perfection. One of Olivia's flaws is her lack of social skills, and this is especially true when she's not giving orders. Her skills in the social dynamics are so awkward. It's like a child throwing a temper tantrum in a restaurant and everyone notices.
Does your protagonist have flaws? What about your secondary or supportive characters? Another trait category is cultural influences. Consider giving your character traits that give a diverse background of cultural influences, things like traditions, values, or perceptions that shape your character's actions and reactions to things. So you want to do a little bit of research on the potential cultural backgrounds of your character or the supporting characters and add those in so that your character really does reflect the culture that they come from.
Examples of this are maybe a character comes from a really tight-knit community that's traditional, and they're struggling to balance that traditional upbringing with modern life. Maybe they don't celebrate Christmas, or perhaps they are overly superstitious.
What about a character who uses unique family recipes? Now, I had a friend actually, and they used a unique recipe for squaw candy up in Alaska. Many of you probably don't even know what that is, but it's a unique treat that he was passing out all the time, and it just made him kind of stand out as that one unique individual that always had the squaw candy.
Olivia was impacted greatly by growing up in a post-apocalyptic environment. Like, water is more valuable than money. And also, clothing and essential items are rummaged and scavenged from abandoned and dilapidated homes.
Fifth in our list of unique traits is unusual skills. Maybe your character has an unexpected or a surprised skill that shocks the reader. Maybe they are a master of origami or they're a competitive eater. That can add a fun element to your story.
Maybe they're like me and they can create art out of a ball of yarn and a crochet hook. I've been crocheting since I was 5 years old. Maybe your character has a unique and surprising artistic and creative skill. Examples could include a character who can whittle wood into really realistic items, or a competitive eater who's also a poet who uses food as inspiration. Now, our character Olivia, she is really good at taking rocks and throwing them. In fact, she can hit a squirrel right between the eyes at a really long distance.
Okay, it's time for a pro tip for those of you who made it this far in the video. Anytime you're using any of these unique traits in your story with your character, make sure to use foreshadowing. Have that character in a scene early on where it's just kind of a glimpse of that, or maybe another character mentions it, or they're doing something to interact with that skill in kind of a small way. Do that long before you incorporate that skill or that trait into something that is a major scene. You want to foreshadow that just a little bit. Give a little hint so that makes more sense when the big scene comes. An example of this would be Olivia. When she was out hunting squirrels with small little rocks, her brother came and interrupted her to deliver a message from the commander.
The sixth category of unique traits is emotional response. Now, focus on how characters react in situations with their emotions. Now, perhaps your character gets overly excited by mundane things, or maybe they start laughing in really tense situations. We as humans are emotional creatures and we can relate to emotions.
Some examples of this may be a character who bursts into laughter during serious moments. It gives a little comic relief, but it also reveals how nervous and tense they are. Or what about that character who has such a heightened emotional response that they just freak out. They get so excited when they, find a small little parking spot or they achieve some small little task. Yay!
Yay!
That kind of funny thing. In our character Olivia, she has a very unique thing. When she gets angry, she smiles uncontrollably. This antagonizes her enemies, especially in a fight, but it warns everyone who knows her well.
The seventh category is social dynamics. You want to explore how characters interact with others. Perhaps they are overly empathetic, maybe they're socially awkward, or they could be a natural leader. Depending on the setting of your story, this can be a broad range of ideas. But the social setting and the social dynamic can be very impacting on your characters.
Here are a few examples to get you thinking about this. A character who is naturally shy but works as a barista in a coffee shop and interacts with people all day long. Maybe this stresses her out so much that on her time off and the weekends or whenever she has that break, she isolates, and the net result is that she's just a lonely individual because she's so stressed in the wrong environment. Another example would be that socially awkward genius. You know, the guy who really is super intellectual and got it going on. It can process information and all that kind of stuff, but lacks the skill set to interact with peers well and take an idea and bring it to market.
Olivia has a really hard time talking to people that she doesn't know, which she's super socially awkward.
Here's another pro tip as a thank you for staying with us this far in the video. Don't forget backstory. How did your character develop this unique skill or trait that they have? Were they born with this, or did it result from a traumatic experience that they went through?
Last week's video was about backstory, and if you haven't checked that out, this is your chance. When you're crafting unique character traits for your character, it's important to keep the character's backstory in mind.
If this information was valuable to you, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss the next 2 videos in this character development series. Let us know in the comments below, what is your favorite and unique trait?